What's up, guys? I am back and I am no longer sick, at least I think I'm not. We're going to be doing a roster review today, and today we have Dallia bum cover in the hot seat. So he wants to know about Darkside TB, Fleet Arena. He runs Tarkin as his fleet commander, and then he had a few miscellaneous questions like what should his next Zetas be. He also wanted to ask about crystal budgeting, how he should budget his crystals every day, and lastly, mods. So we all know mods with high secondary speed are pretty good, but he wants to know on top, if you don't get a mod like that, what else makes for a good mod that you should keep. So hopefully everyone is able to benefit at least a little bit from this review, and let's just jump right into it. Jumping into the first topic, we have something more pleasant to look at. We have a Darkside Empire fleet, yeah baby, and Tarkin is your fleet commander. He's the second best fleet commander right now behind Thrawn, and you're just going to be running sort of a target locking fleet with Biggs as your tank, and then the reinforcements is where it gets more interesting. There's more options. You can run Sunfac or Scimitar in the first slot. In the second slot, you can run Scimitar if you weren't running Scimitar in the first slot. You can run Gauntlet Starfighter, which is a great support ship. You should still have some Empire ships alive when it comes out of reinforcements. In the 5 slot, you can use 5s or Boba Fett. And then in the very last 4th reinforcement slot, you're looking for something like Cassian, Poe, or Wedge to wrap up the match. All right, so let's now move into crystal budgeting. So if you're doing well in Arena, which you are, you're going to be getting top 3 rewards. So you're getting around 400 to 500 crystals for Squad Arena, and then for Ship Arena, you're getting about 400 to 350 crystals per day there. And then if you're doing all of your dailies and you're getting the prize box and you're doing your Galactic War, you get another 50 to 100 crystals there. So that means you have about 800 to 1,000 crystals to work with every single day. So I think you should spend them this way. So for Cantina, do refreshes up until the 200 crystal refresh costs pops up. That's 3 100 crystal refreshes, and whether you're buying character shards or mods, same thing. For light side and dark side nodes, I would recommend buying refreshes until the 100 crystal refresh costs pops up. That means you're going to do 3 50 crystal refreshes, and then the rest you should save. Okay, so we just talked about crystal budgeting. Let's talk about some Zetas that will help you out in Darkside TB. So I have 2 sort of leadership Zetas. We have Krennic and Thrawn. Thrawn's listed here. Thrawn's leadership is quite good. You can run him on a hybrid team, on an Empire team. You can run him on an Imperial Trooper team as your leader, actually. And he's very flexible. He's also a good fleet commander, so you can knock out 2 birds with 1 stone if you ever want to switch to him as your fleet commander. Krennic is the other one. He's quite good and a very strong Empire leader. Protection regen has shown to be better than health regen, but you do have Gar Saxon already Zetaed, so you might want to consider trying to make that work instead of Krennic and go with Thrawn. And then we have a few other options. We have Imperial Probe Droid and Colonel Stark. Now the special mission is quite difficult, and having some Zetas on these 2 characters will help you out. You definitely want to be a good guildmate and knock out this special mission so you can get the currency to get the valuable Gear 12 gear and other awesome stuff. Also, Imperial Probe Droid is probably going to be meta eventually one day, so I'd probably go with him because you already have General Veer Zetaed over Stark. So those are some Zeta options for Darkside TB. All right, and then let's go into the very last question, which is about mods. What makes a good mod that doesn't have speed attached to it? So we're on the dev account here with Aurora, and we have 6 mods on him. Let's go over the primaries and then we'll move into the secondaries. So we know that speed is typically best in slot on the arrow for most of the time, like most heroes and most of the time. But offensive primary arrows, particularly critical chance and critical damage arrows, are worth keeping. So something like this would be worth keeping. You can also keep health or protection arrows that have good secondary stats, like tanky stats, health, protection, and flat defense. And you can use that for tanks sometimes. And for the triangles, critical damage triangles are quite rare. and sometimes you can't get secondary speed on them. But if you can find a critical damage triangle that has flat offense or high critical chance in the secondary stats, it's actually worth keeping, in my opinion, especially if it's on a mod set that you don't typically ever farm. And most of the time people are not farming mods like tenacity or like offense. This is an offense critical damage triangle. Most people don't have any of these type of mods, so this would definitely be something that I think I would consider keeping. And then to wrap up primaries for the cross, something like tenacity, health, or protection sometimes are worth keeping. You never know when you're going to need a mod like this. For example, maybe in a future meta you don't necessarily need secondary speed and you're looking for a tenacity cross, and if it has a bunch of defensive stats and you can slap that on a tank and that's actually the best thing to do, then you want to kind of be prepared for this future meta, not have to grind a mod for it when it arrives. So sometimes keeping something like that may be handy. And keep in mind that you can keep, I think, over 500 plus mods in your inventory. So now let's move from primaries to secondaries. So here's a square with a bunch of protection secondary. I think this can go up to like 2,000 or 3,000 actually, so it can go even higher than that. This is a type of mod that you keep for situations when you're trying to do events with undergeared characters. So typically when you're undergeared, you have very low health and protection, and you kind of hedge the gearing by saving mods like this and slapping them on them, and you can kind of get by with the event being a gear level or two under the recommendation. So that's something to keep. Another secondary that's quite good is flat offense, and I would keep mods that have around 60 to 80 flat offense starting off. I think this can go up to maybe 150 or something as high as that, maybe even 180. I'm not sure. But there's a lot of situations where just having flat offense and you don't even need speed is important. For example, teams like the Kenobi Sync utilize mods just like this that add high secondary flat offense. And then lastly, two other good secondaries to strive for are critical chance and potency. So going back to the offensive arrow here, this has 6% critical chance. I think that can go up to 7 or 8%, and that will come from a gold mod, and it obviously needs to proc all the way on that stat. But having something like that and going to the circle here, high secondary percent potency is also quite good and worth keeping around. There are heroes where when you suddenly stack a bunch of the same stat, it kind of compounds, whether it's critical chance, and suddenly you're taking a hero that has very low critical chance and making it as high as some of the attackers, which is kind of unheard of. Or if you have a bunch of potency and you taking a hero up to like 60 to 80% potency, and suddenly you're really landing a bunch of the debuffs. This is especially important if you're running a team that needs something like this. So this would be a great mod for like a Zeta Finn. Now that Rey Jedi training is around, you still use Zeta Finn, and under that type of team you would use a mod like this. So these are some mods that are worth keeping, even if they don't have any speed on them. I know some of them had a little speed, like there was 3 there and 11 there, but even if this mod had no speed, I would actually consider keeping it because it could prove useful, and grinding mods is a pain, so you always kind of want to have some in the inventory bank. Alright, so that's all she wrote. Time to wrap up. So this has been a roster review of the scumbag that is Dallia bum cover. We went over a bunch of things like Darkside Fleet Arena, Darkside TB, what to Zeta, a crystal budgeting plan, and what makes a good mod. Stay tuned for the next roster review. We have Alicia D and Chaoticus in the hot seat, so it should be pretty good. And I'll catch you guys later in the next video. Cheers.
macho like Randy. The chopper go ice for granted. Your nigga pull up your bandit. The killers understand it.